Okay. Well, happy Friday to everyone from wherever you may be. We recognize we have folks joining us from across the United States and around the world for that matter, so from many different time zones. So we're thrilled to have you all with us today. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Vince Cuzio. I'm the Vice President of Enrollment at Occidental. And my first order of business really is to repeat and reinforce what I expressed to you in writing to you, the students, and that is congratulations on the great news that you received from us about your admissions to Oxy. Our admission staff reviewed 6,500 or so applications this year and spent countless hours from November and throughout the winter months getting to know you through what you wrote about yourself in your application, as well as what others wrote about you. And we were impressed by your smarts, certainly first and foremost, but also really by your deep commitments to the things that you really care about. Your out-of-class involvements, your community, and the greater world. And most of all, really, for your resilience during a senior year you never anticipated having to have experienced in the way in which you did. So bravo to you all. Now, I know we have a fair number of students who have already committed to Occidental. So let me applaud you on your good judgment. And for all the others, your thoughts need to turn to making a decision about which college to attend over the next month. And while we're certainly personally disappointed we aren't able to gather all of you in person on campus as we would on what usually is a gloriously sunny April day in Los Angeles. Of course on cue, it is in fact a gloriously sunny day here, but please use your imagination as you visit with us virtually over the next several hours to learn a little bit more about what Oxy might afford you. At this time, I have the honor of introducing our president, Harry Elam. President Elam began his tenure at Oxy last July, and he's really already made a mark for his, I think, his warmth, his insightfulness, and his engagement with the entire Occidental community, despite the inability to interact with us in person, at least at this time. Originally from the East Coast, President Elam did his undergraduate work at Harvard and earned his doctorate from the University of California at Berkeley. He's a recognized scholar in theater and spent 30 years at Stanford University as both a professor and as an administrator in key leadership roles in the arts and undergraduate education before joining us. His values and his lived experiences closely align with Oxy's mission as a liberal arts college devoted to excellence and equity, making him an ideal fit for our community. So now I have the pleasure of turning it over to President Elam.
Thank you for that introduction, Vince. I am so very pleased to have the opportunity to talk with you on Oxy Snapshot Admitted Students Day. First, let me join Vince and say congratulations to all of you on your acceptance at Oxy. For clearly, college acceptance is a group accomplishment, particularly in this time of pandemic. Parents, families, I know you are incredibly proud of your student and all they have achieved. Students, I know you are aware that getting here is not something you could have done alone, that there are others, elders, teachers, mentors, friends, families, parents that have provided critical support that has helped you to reach this point. And then there's the simple matter of the pandemic. The pandemic brought new and unforeseen challenges to the process of navigating high school, and even more anxiety to the process of negotiating applications for college. So again, my congratulations, our congratulations to all of you. Now, secondly, I want to assure you that our plan for the fall is to have all our students back on campus, and we are preparing now for that reality. We expect that the experience here will be in person, with the majority of our students living on the beautiful campus here in Eagle Rock. So remember, August 23rd, it's a Monday, is move-in day for first-year students. I hope to see you then. Today, what we want to do is to help you think about what makes Oxy the right place for you. The most important thing I can tell you about deciding where you will spend the next 4 years of your life is that this is not just a matter of the intellect, but of the heart. I understand that what you want most is to feel that spark that you feel at home, and that is so complicated and even more challenging to connect remotely. While I do not have the powers of spontaneous combustion, I do know that the source of any ignition depends on your listening, not just to us speaking to you today, but to your gut and to what it tells you. So please take a moment to pay attention as much as you can during this packed day to what Oxy makes you, or how rather, Oxy makes you feel. What does your gut say? I want to talk quickly about a few ideas that hopefully will get your gut churning. One is community. In your time today, you'll probably hear a lot about community. At Oxy, the notion of this word is real. What community means is a place where you belong, where you're welcome. You can't hide at Oxy, I heard a alumni say, and by that meaning, we see you, you're known, and you're valued for who you are. Right now, also, as you could potentially see, if you could see through the walls of the webinar, you'd see the other people listening. And those people are going to be your roommates, your study partners, your friends for life, potentially even more. All of you were selected by us, not simply for your grades and recommendations, but for your spark, your drive, your diversity, your social conscience, your spirit. We chose you for what you bring to Oxy as an individual and as a collective class. Now, one easy idea of why to choose Oxy is the weather, but it's probably not the best one. To be sure, as someone from the East Coast, not having to shovel one's car out of snow, not needing to wear 4 layers of clothing to walk to class, but rather enjoying a spring-like day in the middle of winter, it can make you almost giddy. Here in sunny California, things are different. When you're sitting outside in the sun on the quad, it enables a different type of thinking. Another principle, Los Angeles. Here, the opportunity to take advantage of one of the most dynamic cities in the world, it awaits you. That there are opportunities both inside and outside of the classroom. So for example, outside of the classroom, there are internships and possibilities just to visit and see all the exciting things that are in LA. In terms of internships, there are wonderful possibilities. There's also possibilities for connection to industry, of music, and also the arts. Another thing to look for when here is experiential learning and what we would call our signature courses. Classrooms have a connection to real life and real life experience. So philosophy, of course, you're going to see at all the other schools you've applied to, or excuse me, a discipline, here has an experiential component that feels that hands-on learning is a part of what makes philosophy special here at Occidental. We also have these courses called Oxy Immersives, which you get to immerse within the environment. And one of them was in arts, and it culminated with students having the opportunity to work in LA with an artist. We have courses like the campaign semester, which happens every year and allows students to work on a campaign for credit and to work with other students in a seminar to discuss that campaign process. We have a program at the UN, like no other school has, that gives you firsthand experience working on a mission with a country and knowledge that you couldn't gain any other way. And then there's the Obama Scholars Program, which is a program directed at students who want to make a commitment to public service. Behind me, you see the picture of Obama when he was here as a young college student, a place where he said he found his spark for political action. And so those interested in following that tradition can apply when here to be an Obama Scholars. So these are some of the opportunities and signature courses and ways of study that you'll find here at Occidental. Last idea I want to talk about is the notion of student empowerment. You will be in control of your education here in ways that may surprise you, but ways that will compel you to really negotiate differently than you did high school or ever before in your life. We have robust first-year seminars, the cultural studies program that connect you to each other and help you acclimate to college life. We have interdisciplinary majors that you will not find elsewhere, like diplomacy and world affairs. We have a different approach to computer science and music, arts and culture, MAC as it's called, here than you'll find other places. You'll find a collaborative and diverse campus and a community and culture that you can feel as if you belong. You'll find the fact that our professors here want to work with you, want to partner with you, so that the experience is student-driven, but relates to a collaborative union with professors in a small intellectual environment. So for all these reasons, I hope to see you again on August 23rd here for New Move-In Day. Listen to your gut and let it tell you, come to Oxy. Thank you. Let me turn it back now to Julius Di Lorenzo.
Thank you so much, President Elam, and thank you and congratulations to everyone who is tuning in. My name is Julius, and I'm an admission counselor here at Oxy. I am also an alum of the college. I was originally from Chicago, like some of you watching at home right now, but came out to Los Angeles to make Oxy my home nearly a decade ago. I graduated in 2016, but recently rejoined the Oxy community in the Office of Admissions, and really have loved being back and being a part of Oxy and all that makes Oxy so special. Today isn't about me though, it's about all of you, and we really do have a packed agenda. As you can see, we are quite excited about making the most of our time together and really lifting up what makes Oxy such a unique community to be a part of. So to walk you all through the schedule a bit, we will kick off today's program with a presentation on the Oxy student experience in the classroom and beyond, led by our Dean of the College, Wendy Sternberg, and Dean of Student Life, Rob Flott. They will be followed by two members of our admission team, Jordan Brown and Robin Hamilton, who will really dial in on life on campus, spotlighting leadership opportunities, clubs and organizations, and our residential community. Afterwards, our Senior Associate Deans of Admission, Charlie and Maricela Martinez, will explore in more depth all that comes with living and learning in Los Angeles, and in particular, our own neighborhoods of Highland Park and Eagle Rock. Following that, our Assistant Deans of Admission, Kian and Michelle, are going to walk us through the range of ways that students continue to learn outside of Los Angeles through our off-campus study programs and research opportunities. We will finally wrap up the day with one of my favorite parts, our Student Perspectives panel, where we're going to bring a few of our current Oxy students onto the stage to share some insights into how they navigated the college search process, why they chose Oxy, and what their time as students have looked like over the last 4 years. Now, since we unfortunately aren't able to welcome you all on campus as we normally would around this time of year, we are going to do our best to bring campus to you all. So in between each session, we will feature short tours of some of our favorite spots around campus, including our academic commons, our Johnson Student Center, our McKinnon Global Forum, and our Jack Kemp Stadium and new DeMandel Aquatic Center. As a quick note, a recording of today's session will be sent to you all later this week. So if you do need to step away for any time during the program, you can always refer back to the recording to see what you may have missed. If you have questions at any point during today's sessions, myself and other admission counselors are here to help. You can use the Q&A feature, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen, to ask us questions. We will also be sharing some related links with you in the chat box as we go along, so that you can continue to learn more about Oxy after today's program. With that, I am thrilled to introduce to the stage Deans Wendy Sternberg and Rob Flott.
Thanks so much, Julius. So welcome. Thanks so much for being here with us this morning. And I want to offer, echoing on President Elam and Julius's comments, a heartfelt congratulations to our admitted students on your admission to Occidental. Such a wonderful achievement, and we're so thrilled for you. So as Julius said, I'm Wendy Sternberg. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the College. I'm here with Dean Rob Flott, who will introduce himself in a moment. Before I describe my role at the college, I can speak on behalf of myself and Dean Flott in congratulating the parents of admitted students who are here with us today. In addition to our roles at the college, we're also parents of college students, so we can absolutely relate to your experience and the excitement of this really very special moment in your family's lives. So as Dean of the college, I am Oxy's Chief Academic Officer. I have responsibility for the faculty, for the academic program writ large in all of its forms, and for student academic success. Rob?
Well, thanks a lot, Wendy. And again, congratulations to all of you on your acceptance. You know, it's interesting, Wendy mentioned that we're both parents of college students. My youngest son is now a senior at Oxy, and it was 4 years ago at about this time, I was in your shoes, families and parents and students to some extent, and excited and eager about the acceptance and the opportunity that lays ahead. And it's been an amazing 4 years. Wendy and I started at Oxy at the same time in the summer of 2017. So we've been at the college for about 4 years, though this is my 27th year in higher ed, actually. And I oversee as the Dean of Students, I oversee most of the student experience outside of the classroom, from athletics to campus safety. You can go online to look at the areas that I oversee. So Wendy oversees the academic program, and I oversee the co-curricular program. You know, and I really, it's an amazing institution, Occidental. I love to engage with students day to day. I have office hours. The president has office hours for students to come and meet with him, to grab lunch in the cafeteria during normal times, of course, attend events, and so forth. So, you know, it's been a great opportunity and experience for me. I've loved watching my son move through the college, and to some extent, I see all Oxy students as kids of mine to some extent, and I want to help them to be successful, keep them safe, and all that goes along with that. So you can see on the slide there is our mission statement, or at least a piece of our mission statement, and I won't read that for you, but to sort of operationalize it or break it down a bit, I mean, some of the things that are really, really important to us, the breadth and depth of our academic learning and experience, our academic program is certainly top notch. We really value our robust and invigorating and very safe residential environment in the city of Los Angeles. We're very passionate and engaging around issues of equity and justice. That's critical to our mission and who we are. And all of this happens, as President Elam talked in his opening statement, in the heart of an amazing world-class city. You know, we're thrilled and delighted and happy that we've been able to deliver on our mission in our remote circumstances over the past year or so. But we're so looking forward to returning to the residential campus in the fall. Again, as President Elam noted, on August 23rd, when you all move back, we're going to be jumping for joy as much as what you all will be as well. So with that, I think we can go to the next slide.
So yeah, so the next slide is called the liberal arts. And so let's start with your excellent decision to consider a liberal arts institution for this next stage in your education and your personal and professional development. There are so many wonderful things that a small liberal arts college offers and is able to offer really by virtue of our size. We offer a tight-knit community with an emphasis on forming meaningful relationships, both relationships among students and relationships between students and faculty. There's so much about what is offered at Oxy that is really personal and personalized. So we think of our personalized support services that provide students what it is that they need at all stages of their academic journey. There are also opportunities for direct engagement with our faculty members and with the scholarly work of our faculty members. And I'll say a little bit more about that later on. But the liberal arts, especially the liberal arts at Oxy, is about more than our size. Our curriculum comprises a breadth of offerings that will introduce students to the range of intellectual approaches. We've got classes that are built around discussion and debate, a community ethos of integrity, of respect, a willingness to challenge authority, as Rob and I can very much attest to, and really an ability of students to affect meaningful change, to address the challenges both on and off campus. So there is something about this liberal arts approach that really encourages students to develop in all of these important ways. This approach produces empowered, critical thinkers who are able to understand problems from multiple perspectives and solve problems using a range of methodological tools. And really, when you think about it, these are the skills that our employers that employers of the future and employers today look for, as we hear all of the time through our very robust Hamitman Career Center that provides students with a range of services and supports to help them discern particular careers, regardless of their major, and connect them to opportunities to develop those careers. And when you think about it, tomorrow's college graduates will be entering a workforce whose jobs may not yet be in existence. And our students tend to not be particularly focused on any one chosen job or field after they leave. They have a range of opportunities available to them. The liberal arts uniquely prepare students for a flexible future and respond to changing times, as we've seen is so important and what we've all had to do really in the last year. So I do think that the liberal arts is a great experience for this next stage in your academic careers.
What I'll add to that is just a bit. I mean, liberal arts really, to me, speaks to holistic learning. I mean, mind, body, and soul, right? So to state the obvious, we're an academic institution, right? I wouldn't be here if we didn't have an academic program. However, at a place like Oxy, much of what students learn happens outside of the classroom. And that has to do with things like developing leadership, involvement in athletics, potentially, embracing the rich diversity of our student body as students live and learn with each other in a very intentional manner, exploring a major metropolitan city like Los Angeles to go an hour one direction to be at the ocean, an hour another direction to be at a desert or a mountain, really just provides the whole package, that's sort of the holistic experience for students. So to be clear, the academic program is what students come here for, but the co-curricular program enhances and is value added to that academic liberal arts experience. Next slide, please.
Yeah, no, so that's so let's talk a little bit about our location. So as mentioned earlier, this year has just been so hard for all of us, and I'm sure for all of you, because of how deeply connected the Oxy experience is to place. Oxy is unique among liberal arts colleges in being in the heart of a major urban center, really a true global city. So the city of Los Angeles really extends the classroom. So we think of LA as both an opportunity for Oxy students, but we also see Oxy as an opportunity for the city of Los Angeles. So we really see this relationship between the college and the community outside our campus borders as a bidirectional relationship in which Oxy benefits the community beyond the benefits that our students derive from the location in Los Angeles. This is embodied in our Center for Community-Based Learning, our Oxy Arts space on York Boulevard, just right off campus, our Urban and Environmental Policy Institute, which works with organizations in Los Angeles and in the state of California and even nationwide on solving problems, using the intellectual tools to solve some of the most vexing problems of our day. And as Rob is responsible for all of that happens in Los Angeles outside the classroom in student affairs through our student leadership and community engagement office. So there's a lot that happens in LA for Oxy students and a lot that happens at Oxy for Los Angeles. And LA really does represent such an amazing learning opportunity. As Rob said, it's unique environmental ecosphere with ocean, deserts, and mountains within the most populous county in the United States. And it is absolutely the case that all issues of importance in the 21st century can be studied by just walking outside of the campus borders. Issues of immigration, of housing, of climate change. These are all issues that our students can not just understand in the classroom, but really get a deep understanding through just living in this very complex and really rich city. In addition to that, the city of Los Angeles represents opportunities for career development, for internship opportunities, for career opportunities, for connections with people in Los Angeles that can come and give guest lectures on campus. We've got a professor of the practice program that brings local professionals to Oxy to teach courses. The current mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, has had an experience teaching at Los Angeles before he was mayor. But these are all opportunities that Oxy affords because of its deep connections to Los Angeles. Now, we've maintained as much of that as possible, as President Elam said at the outset, through remote internships at Los Angeles cultural institutions and a host of other community engaged opportunities that our students have been able to participate in wherever they've been during this past very difficult year. And I think that just shows how much we've been able to build on the relationships that the college has with the community to provide opportunities for our students, even when they're not physically here.
And just to reiterate quickly, as we look at this next slide here, one of the things that you'll notice on this slide is the campus itself. I'm looking to my left here to see the slide that's up, is you can see the campus there in the lower portion of the screen. You can almost throw a net over the campus. So though we're in the heart of a metropolitan world-class city, it's a very safe campus. It's a very community-oriented campus, much campus engagement. It takes about 7 minutes to walk from one side of campus to the other. So you can see where Oxy there is on your screen. To the left, York Boulevard. That's a popular place for students to go for meals, for dinner, for those who are age to have a drink, that kind of thing. The city of Eagle Rock, you can see, is where we're located there in Northwest LA, about 6 miles from downtown LA, which you see in the upper left is downtown. You can get a sense of where Hollywood is, not far from us. And the ocean you can see off in the distance. It's closer than it may look, but it sometimes takes longer to get there than one might expect. So it takes probably 45 minutes to an hour to get to the ocean, which isn't a long time, but it is available. So that sort of orients you to where we're situated in Los Angeles. So the other thing I'll add here is that on campus, we have a campus safety operation that is that's open or functioning 24/7, 365. They patrol all the time. We're not a place where intersecting streets cross through campus. So it's a very, very safe community, which is something that's important to me as the parent of an Oxy student, certainly for you all, students and families as well.
So let's spend a few minutes talking about the academic program. So I'll start by mentioning our core program. So nearly all colleges and universities, or certainly nearly all liberal arts colleges, have a general education program, a set of courses or disciplines that all students either take specific courses or sample from a range of courses in a deliberate sort of path building way. And you can tell something about an institution's values by examining the ideas that are embodied in their core programs. So Oxy's core program includes a set of courses that students can choose from. So the opportunities that, where students can forge their own path through the academic program and take courses that interest them with some sort of loose guidelines for the core program. So for example, we've got one of our core requirements is a set of courses from which students choose one that deals with the topic of diversity in the United States. Another core requirement is a course that has a particular focus on, it's called Global Connections. So a course that deals with issues outside the United States. A focus on ideas from before 1800. So we don't have a specific history requirement, but we require students to have an understanding of a particular topic that is, that is more historical before 1800. So those are some examples of the types of courses that the core program offers. But our program is also deliberately interdisciplinary. So the core program also includes courses in fine arts, in the sciences and mathematics, and range of intellectual disciplines. But many of our programs are also deliberately interdisciplinary in that they take a particular topic or discipline and understand it from multiple disciplinary perspectives. So we've got programs that draw on multiple disciplines. And some examples are some of our, our cultural studies programs, like our Latino Latin American Studies program. Our Black Studies program also contains courses that students can take from a range of disciplines, media, arts and culture, urban and environmental policy. These are all majors that students can declare that are deliberately interdisciplinary, incorporating perspectives, methodological tools, habits of mind from multiple disciplines, which really gives a rich way of looking at particular issues and areas and problems from multiple perspectives. Another thing that I will say about the academic program at Oxy is that we have some unique programs, some of the ones that I've mentioned before: media, arts and culture, urban and environmental policy. We also have a program in critical theory and social justice. So there are the standard programs in, standard majors in the sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, in the humanities, arts and humanities, theater and English and the foreign languages. But we have a number of unique programs that you won't necessarily find elsewhere. I did see that there was a comment that came by in the chat that I think was offered about marine biology as an emphasis within the biology department. Our programs are open to all of our students. So all a student needs is an interest and sign up for the appropriate classes, and then they can be prepared to take a major in really any discipline for which they are prepared. So we don't track students in particular ways. We don't accept students into particular majors at the time of admission. Our students are free to explore the curriculum. And that's really one of the things that the core program is designed to do, is to push students to take courses that they might not have even known existed in particular disciplines that they have no exposure to. So the core program really does push students outside of their intellectual comfort zones, and students can sometimes find a new passion through that opportunity to explore early in their careers. But some students may know exactly what they want to study, and those programs are here for students to get started right away. All of our majors have entry points for first-year students that can get started on exploring whether a particular topic really is what they want to major in, and then they have lots of flexibility once they do that. The last thing I'll say about the academic program is its emphasis on research and original scholarly work. Our faculty are not just committed and devoted teachers, they're also scholars in their own right, and maintain active research programs. A liberal arts college, a small liberal arts college that's for undergraduates, means that there are no graduate students that are there working side by side with our faculty. So it's our undergraduate students, it's Oxy students that are working side by faculty. And this to me is such an important part of the liberal arts approach to critical thinking, is teaching students not just the topics and the concepts and the theories and the facts of the discipline, but teaches students to understand where those ideas come from, how knowledge is created in a particular field, and give students the opportunity to become creators of knowledge themselves. And that to me is such an important value that we have at Oxy, and something that is a really great experience and opportunity for Oxy students, even if they choose not to go on and become practitioners of their discipline, understanding how knowledge is created, and to understand what knowledge is created on solid ground, what is shakier, that really does create the critical thinkers and the problem solvers of tomorrow.
I'll talk a bit about the residential community, and I've alluded to some of this already, but again, we're residential by design. We want our students to live and learn together. We have a 3-year residency requirement, which means students are required to live on campus their first 3 years, but in fact, most seniors wish to continue to live on campus as well, because I think we have a thriving residential community. So it's intentional. We want students, again, to be in the company of each other, to live and learn and grow together. As you saw from the slide a couple slides ago, it's a small contained campus, so it's pretty easy to traverse and to get from one point to another. At Oxy, Community is exceedingly important. I can't stress that enough. President Elam in his remarks talked about community, and I'll mention our philosophy of a culture of care at Occidental. What that refers to is we really have an expectation that everyone in the community is exhibiting care and concern towards each other. That might be someone working in the dining hall who is engaging with a student, and the student seems to not be themselves, and they may talk to someone and say, hey, maybe we should check in on this student. It could be a faculty member, a coach, a supervisor. It could be a student who's concerned about another student. But we want a community where everyone, not just a few people, but everyone is working to provide care for each other in our community. To that end, we have a number of campus supports that I'll briefly mention, but you can find more detail on the website, from our health and wellness center, our counseling center, and our medical center. Is really pretty amazing for a small liberal arts college in terms of the resources and the expertise that's there. We've had expert guidance, in fact, from our health staff over the past year in the pandemic to help us to remain a safe and well community despite the pandemic. We also have support through our intercultural community center that supports students who've been traditionally marginalized in colleges or universities. As well, our student support team, which I'll quickly mention, is an interdisciplinary group of individuals who meet weekly to check in about students who we're concerned about. And in short, it's really, really, really hard to fall through the cracks at Oxy because of our culture of care, because of our student success team, because of our health and counseling services and other supports on campus, including academic supports that Wendy may talk more about, like the Writing Center or academic tutors and things like that. So we also, I think you'll find few institutions, small liberal arts colleges, that can provide the community engagement opportunities that we can in LA. Through our student leadership and involvement office, there's a wealth of opportunities in our backyard, literally, for students to get engaged in the community. And we don't see it as much as volunteerism as being a good community neighbor, to reciprocate, to give to the community and to learn from the community as well. We don't see it as paternalistic as much as we're part of the community. We're not just a bubble in the midst of it. So in addition to that, our athletics department, we have 20 varsity sports, compete at the Division III level. Many of you on the call may be student athletes. I was a student athlete myself. My son here was a student athlete. And it's something that's highly valued at the college. And what's interesting at a place like Oxy is that student athletes not only get to participate in their craft, their athletic specialty, if you will, but they're involved with other aspects of campus, whether it's community service, cultural organizations, Greek life, being a resident assistant in the resident halls. Oxy provides an opportunity to not be pigeonholed into a particular niche or identity, but to really spread your wings, if you will. And all of that happens within a very diverse student body. And if we can move to the next slide, I'll talk a bit more about that. So equity and justice is critically important at Oxy. And it's one of the things that brought me here 4 years ago because of what the mission statement said, because of what our values are, and because of how those are embodied in the work we do, both in the academic curriculum, outside of the classroom, and otherwise. Now, to be sure, diversity complicates and enriches the student experience. I don't say complicated in a pejorative manner, but it makes people think. It makes people be exposed to things that are new and different. And in the world we live in, I don't know that there's much more important than being able to successfully navigate, embrace, engage, advocate around issues of equity and justice. I mean, if you look at our current environment, what's happening in LA, in California, in the US, in the world, there are a few things. And I couldn't be more delighted to have President Elam as our leader as we're moving into this. Oxy's always been, I think, always excelled around equity and justice, but I think we're poised to be a real leader, both as a institution of higher education, but as a community partner as well. President Elam sent out an equity and justice agenda recently to the campus community that's laying out some of his vision and hopes and aspirations around that. We're beginning to engage in equity and justice strategic planning process as well to create a blueprint going forward. So we're really putting our money where our mouth is, if you will. We want to be proactive and responsive, proactive in getting ahead of things. But when things do happen, we want to respond to those in every way possible. Despite that diversity, we're one campus with many voices, right? So there's a lot of diversity in a lot of ways at the college, but I think we're all unified around equity and justice, trying to be change agents, trying to inspire our students to be change agents and make a difference in their communities. So, about 50% of our student body identifies as international students or students of color. So we truly are diverse. It'd be hard pressed to find a small liberal arts college more diverse than what we are. And that happens, that's enhanced really by the community in the city of Los Angeles in which we reside and live and work. So I think we can move on to the next slide.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just say a few words to really sum up some of the issues that Rob and I have been discussing over the last few minutes. So, I think some of the takeaways that I hope you've gotten from our comments is really about this holistic approach to the educational experience, this intersection of academics and student life. As Rob mentioned earlier, he and I started on the same day in 2017, and it's really truly been a partnership between student affairs and academic affairs where we collaborate to ensure student success inside and outside the classroom. There's Rob mentioned earlier the support of the student success team, and that includes people in my area and in his area that are really here to support our students and help them achieve success. As Rob also mentioned, we do think of our students as really part of our families, and we are here and committed to the success of every student that joins the Occidental community. And I think we have a great program, both inside and outside the classroom, that prepares students for life after college, prepares them for enriching adult lives that enable them to continue their studies, to get started on their careers right after they leave Oxy. And I think I'll just conclude by really emphasizing what an exciting time it is at Oxy and will be in the coming year. As you heard earlier, President Elam is still brand new and is still, has yet to have a class of students on campus in a full way. So, there's this sense of palpable excitement around the future directions that the college is going in. And there's always a lot of fanfare and excitement, and that sort of anticipation of the start of the academic year. That is always the case. But imagine what it's going to be like this August when our students are back on campus for the first time since March of 2020. It is going to be such a party, and we're so excited that you may be part of it. And so I will, turn it over to Rob for some final comments.
Yeah, and just to emphasize some of what Wendy said, I mean, you prompted this thought for me, Wendy, in talking to my son, and again, you can see I'm a proud dad. I've mentioned him probably half a dozen times now, about his experience as he's beginning to reflect as he graduates in 6 weeks or so. And he said, Dad, I really think different. I consider things different. I see things different. And I couldn't be more proud of that. That's what I would want my kid to get out of his college education, is to develop critical thinking, analytical skills, to see things in a different light, to consider the world in a different frame. And I think that Oxy has done just that for him. He's a music production major. And I say that because he wasn't, it could sound like he's a philosophy major, maybe, or a math major. So he's a music production major. And as a music production major, he experienced and was involved in the overall liberal arts experience at the college. Now, whether he stays in music production or not, I don't know. I just know that he's well prepared for life after Oxy, and you would be too, should you choose to come. So with that, I think we can move on to the last slide, which is, this is a view, one of my favorite views at the college. This is Mount Fiji, which is on the east side of the college. And the view is just amazing from up there. They're overlooking the campus, actually. The ocean is where the sun is setting there. And if you haven't been to campus yet, when you do get here, I encourage you to hike up there. It's probably a 10-minute hike. It's not terribly strenuous for those that don't enjoy that kind of thing. But again, congratulations to you all on your acceptance. Thanks for joining us this morning. I hope you have and get more information throughout the next couple of hours while you're on the call. Please don't hesitate to be in touch with Wendy or me. Again, she's the dean of the college. You can Google that and find how to contact her. I'm the dean of students. And I'm happy to engage offline if you have specific questions that I can speak to. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Robin Hamilton.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Wendy and Rob, for that wonderful introduction to the college and for joining our admitted students and families today. My name is Robin Hamilton. I'm the Associate Dean of Admission here at Oxy. I am also a proud Oxy alum. I graduated from the college in 2008. I came to Oxy from the Pacific Northwest. So if there are any students from Western Washington, a special welcome to you all from me. We wanted to take some of the moments in between our presentations to give you a little bit of a taste of campus, give you a little bit of a tour, since unfortunately we're not able to be on campus right now. So we are going to share some videos, as Julius mentioned, during this in-between time. The first one will be kind of a broad aerial overview of campus. And then when we return, my colleague and I, Jordan Brown, will be excited to kind of share a little bit more in depth about residential life on campus and student life on campus. So we will see you back here in about 3 minutes, but tune in for this fun video of campus.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I am Jordan Brown. I want to echo some of the sentiments echoed by my colleagues earlier. Congratulations on being admitted. We are so thrilled that you are a part of our community, and especially in what's been a very trying year, to say the least. We are thrilled to be able to go into more depth about some of the topics that Dean Flott covered in the initial presentation around the residential component of Oxy, club opportunities, leadership opportunities, as well as community engagement. A little bit about me. I am Jordan Brown. I'm Assistant Dean of Admission. I'm also an alum of the college. I graduated now a number of years ago. I was a philosophy major, and I joined the Oxy community kind of by way of San Diego and New York. So I definitely want to say hello to anyone out there from San Diego or some of those East Coasters. And I'm very, very fortunate to be joined by my colleague whom you've already met, Robin Hamilton. So I'll turn it over to Robin.
Hi, everyone. Again, Robin Hamilton, Associate Dean of Admission. Excited to talk more about student life today. All right, so we are going to start off by, I think, everyone's favorite topic, residential life. And we heard a bit from Dean Flott about the importance of having our students living and learning all together on our beautiful campus. So some basics. All of our students live on campus with us. There are some exceptions. We oftentimes have seniors that choose to live off campus, but we do traditionally guarantee housing for 4 years for our students here at Oxy. All of our first year students live in a series of first year residence halls traditionally, and that's really meant to help ease the transition to college, to help provide programming that is meant to help students get acclimated to who Oxy is, how to build community, knowing that many of you are leaving home for the first time or sharing a room or being in more of this communal setting for the first time. As a first year student, you will complete a first year housing form, and that will happen over the summer. So those students that have already chosen to commit to Oxy, again, congratulations. Over the summer, you will complete a housing form that will give us some information about who you are, what you're interested in, what your lifestyle habits are, how you like to live, how you like to keep your space, what's important to you. And then our residence hall staff uses that to hopefully pair you with a roommate or two. Again, you will find out your housing assignment a little bit later before new student orientation at the end of the summer. After your first year, you have a little bit more flexibility about where you live and the type of residence halls that you live in. So as a sophomore, junior, and senior, you get to choose who you live with, where you live. If you're living in a single, a double, a triple, there's a broader selection in terms of inventory of the type of residence halls that we offer. We have traditional dorm-like settings that you may think of, that is a long hallway with a bunch of rooms, shared common spaces, common bathrooms, things like that. We also have more apartment style living, or what we call our student quads, where there are 4 rooms on one side of the hall, 4 rooms on the other side that maybe share some common space, kitchen, bathroom. They have wonderful balconies, things like that, that are a little bit more private and a little bit more intimate with a smaller group of students. We also offer themed living opportunities. One that's open to our first year students is our poly multicultural hall. And that's also the only residence hall that has all 4 class years included in it. So that's a unique opportunity for students to come together to be in community and have conversation about what it means to live in a multicultural campus, to discuss issues of equity and diversity on campus. And is also really a kind of a cultural hub on campus as well. Our Norris quads, as I mentioned before, oftentimes have varied themes that change every single year as students with different interests come in and out of campus. And throughout your time at Oxy, there will likely be other themed options as well. As you can see here in our slide, this is a pretty traditional double. So you can see kind of the essentials that are available to students. All of our rooms come with a bed, which is an extra long twin. All of our students are provided a desk, a dresser, access to closet space. There is a mini fridge and a microwave provided as well. And so you will have kind of everything that you need. We always encourage students kind of pack light, even if you're just driving or feel like you can throw everything in the car, pack light, see what you and your roommates have gathered together once you move in, and you can always make purchases or additions once you arrive on campus as well. When we think about residential life, it's not just sort of where you sleep and where you go home at the end of the night, but we also hope that it is a place where you build community. So we have residential staff, professional staff, and also student staff that are there to provide mentorship and guidance, to be just someone to listen to help students. If you have a question about your roommate situation, if you have a question about choosing a class, if you're just needing help navigating, adjusting again to college, that residential community, the RA staff and our professional staff that work with Dean Flott are really there to build that community. So as you can hear, the residential experience is really important to our students. We also think it's a really fun experience. I know I loved living on campus. I lived on campus for 3 years. I actually lived in the poly multicultural hall all 3 years. Which was my choice. Many students kind of move around and find different communities that they connect with. But I really enjoyed that experience. I lived there as a resident for 2 years and then as a resident advisor during my junior year. And it was amazing to be able to work with sophomores and first year students and even senior students and kind of guide them through their residential experience. Jordan?
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. I lived on campus for 3 years. And then when I lived off campus, I lived right in the immediate area, which is not terribly uncommon for our students who do move off campus to be kind of in the surrounding neighborhood. So again, that contributes to that sense of community as well. And speaking of that sense of community, I do want to talk about all the different ways that you can be engaged kind of beyond the residential component. So a core part of that are clubs and student organizations. So Oxy has over 100 clubs and organizations that are dedicated to a variety of things, including outdoor activities such as hiking or skiing, to community engagement with partnerships with local schools around tutoring or public health, to cultural clubs and affinity groups. There are also academic and professional development organizations like the Women in Economics Club or the Pre-Law Society. Foodies of Oxy can introduce you to our favorite LA restaurants. And I know that at least us in the admissions office, we do have our favorite restaurants in the area, as well as our food on campus, which is quite good. The Oxy Surf Club will even teach you how to surf. The range of clubs allows you to continue doing the things you loved before coming to Oxy and to find new things that you want to try once you're here. So in addition to the club component, we do offer Greek life, which Dean Flott mentioned in the prior presentation. About 15% of Oxy students are involved in Greek life, and we have both national and local fraternities and sororities, including academic and social organizations. We offer gender inclusive Greek life as well. As a result, being part of a Greek organization feels really different at Oxy than it does maybe at other schools. Rather than being the single group of people that students live with and spend time with, instead Greek life becomes just one part of a student's community. Someone can be a member of a sorority and part of the soccer team and a member of the yearbook staff, for example. In addition to Greek life, if you are curious about studying Greece, we also have a classics minor. In terms of sports offerings, we do offer varsity athletics. We have 20 varsity athletic programs. We compete at the Division III level. Both Robin and I are former student athletes, so we definitely want to do a special shout out to anyone who is a recruited student athlete. If you are interested in learning more about varsity athletics, we have a varsity athletics panel Tuesday at 5 p.m. So I encourage, I implore all of you to attend that event to learn more. But in addition to our robust varsity athletics programs, we also have intramural sports, club sports. Recently, our club men's and women's ultimate frisbee team have attended nationals. And then intramural sports, of course, are kind of the most accessible, most inclusive of all of our athletic offerings. And then we do have a variety of fitness classes as well. In terms of student life traditions, a prominent one is dance production, which is pictured here. Dance production is a student choreographed dance recital with every kind of dance form: hip hop, contemporary, swing, Bollywood, step dancing. Whether you have dance experience or not, you're totally eligible to participate. Usually between 200 and 300 students participate. I myself never did, but I was always a supporter in the crowd. Robin, did you ever participate?
I did not, but I definitely never missed a performance, and even as a staff member have never missed a performance. And a special shout out, we are doing a virtual dance production that you can find if you follow dance production on Instagram. The tickets just went for sale, so we encourage you, if you want to tune into the virtual happenings this year, that's totally available. All right, and Jordan, you mentioned that our students have favorite restaurants on and off campus. Do you have a favorite restaurant off campus?
Favorite restaurant off campus? I would say Delia's, which is certainly walking distance from campus. And I even now get breakfast burritos there far too often than I care to admit. What about you?
I was going to say Joy, which is a Taiwanese restaurant, also within walking distance. Really amazing place for food, but Delia's is great as well. All right, so at Oxy, we have an office called SLICE, which stands for Student Leadership, Involvement, and Community Engagement. This office is really the umbrella that brings together programming focused, like I said, on leadership, activities, and community engagement. And it's really there to kind of foster this robust student experience that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into. So whether you're interested in starting a club, being involved in student government, or engaging in the local community, SLICE is really there to help guide and support students' passions. So in the spirit of the SLICE acronym of student leadership, involvement, and community engagement, we have sort of framed our presentation around those different areas. So we are going to start first with our students. So Oxy students come from all over the country, all over the world. They bring different cultural, ethnic, spiritual, and political differences. They come with their own gender expressions and sexualities. They come from families who have long histories of attending four-year institutions, and some students who they'll be the first one in their family to graduate from college. And so for all of the ways that our students arrive on campus and experience campus, we want to offer clubs and organizations that allow for them to be celebrated, to promote education, and to be in other community with other students that share those identities. So this is a photo from I believe, our Asian Pacific Islander graduation. But we have many, many clubs and organizations and ways that we celebrate our students' identities. So just some of those clubs include the Armenian Student Association, Oxy's Halal, the Black Student Alliance, Latinx Student Union, South Asian Student Association, Oxy Democrats, Muslim Student Association, Sexuality and Gender Acceptance Group, our First Generation Club, our International Student Organization, Harambe, and so many more. Many of these students and these clubs and organizations are also supported by the guidance of our Intercultural Center, which is staffed by professional students or professional staff members that are really there to, again, support, promote, educate, and provide a space for students in traditionally marginalized communities to be in community with one another. So we are always excited to celebrate kind of who our students are when they arrive on campus.
Awesome. So the L in SLICE is leadership, and leadership is one of the foundational tenets to our student life curriculum at Oxy, and it can take shape in different ways. Certainly at the club level, our students can hold leadership positions where they gain experience applying for grants, recruiting members, pursuing professional development, creating a positive club culture. And we've even had clubs that have spawned nonprofit organizations. So this picture being one example, these are 3 Oxy students who founded the club Boundless Brilliance, which seeks to educate, empower, and engage students in order to close the gender gap in STEM fields. So after beginning as a club at Oxy, they now have over 200 volunteers and they reach over 7,000 elementary school students. So that's one example. We also have different organizations on campus where you can have more specific kinds of leadership experience. One being our Blythe Fund, which is a student-run investment portfolio. This group manages hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets. So you really do get to be stewards of a portion of the college's endowment. There's also the Associate Students of Occidental College, which is our student government. It's comprised of student senators, our diversity and equity board members. And the mission of ASOC is to advocate on behalf of the student body to promote discussions about how Occidental College can serve to better serve our students and to support and organize this. And we're back, the student experience. So these again are just some of the examples, and ASOC actually manages a lot of the budget for the different clubs and organizations, so they can really distribute that money. So there's a lot of responsibility associated with those positions as well.
Next up is involvement. So in addition to traditional clubs and organizations like you've heard about, students can commit themselves to student service organizations that are oftentimes paid positions, and they really tend to serve the broader community at Oxy. They allow students to get more involved, a little bit deeper, and also participate kind of in the daily life and functionings of the college. So examples of these type of opportunities include things like being a Bengal bus driver, which I think you're going to hear a little bit more about in our next presentation. But it's essentially a student Uber service that provides opportunities to drive students around in the local area. You can have a radio show on our KOXY radio station. You can write, edit, photograph for the Occidental, which is our campus newspaper. We have a student-run coffee shop on campus called the Green Bean, which is a really vital part of the student experience and a real, again, kind of social hub of the campus. You can be a resident advisor, as I mentioned, those folks that are leaders within the residential community. Or pictured here, we have students that are working in our Feast Sustainable Teaching Garden, which is an amazing place that works with our campus dining facilities, works with our urban and environmental policy department to provide a space to teach students about gardening, about sustainability, about where our food comes from. They have compost, they have chickens on campus. If you work in the garden, you also get to harvest from the garden, which is a really amazing perk. So these activities also oftentimes kind of provide students with both the community connection that a traditional club would, but also oftentimes pre-professional experiences. So they kind of straddle that line, oftentimes for students between their academic interests, their kind of social student life interests, and possibly their pre-professional interests as well.
Awesome. And Robin, you mentioned the Green Bean, which is one of my favorite spots on campus. Do you have a go-to order at the Green Bean?
I usually like an horchata latte at the Green Bean. Is probably my go-to order.
Okay, nice. Mine's food related. They usually have banana nut muffins, so I definitely want to shout those out. All right, so the C&E in SLICE is community engagement. Again, you heard Rob talk a little bit about community engagement opportunities at Oxy, and there are tons of ways to be involved. We're an incredibly service and action-oriented community, and you're going to find this throughout the academic and co-curricular experience. So we do have the Center for Community-Based Learning, which seeks to incorporate community engagement opportunities with the classroom. So one recent example is a Spanish class that partnered with a local hospital to translate outpatient guides. And this was a great experience for our students who learned a medical language that is rarely taught, but then also allowed the hospital to better serve their patients. So that's one example. This picture is actually of the Martin Luther King Day of Service, which invites the entire campus to come together for a day of going out into the community, and hundreds of faculty, staff, and students do come together. So that's an annual tradition at Oxy. And then we have a number of clubs that also focus on community engagement, one being Boundless Brilliance, which we already discussed. There's another that's Peer Health Exchange, which is actually a group that I was a part of when I was a student at Oxy. Peer Health Exchange teaches health workshops in 9th grade classrooms in the Los Angeles Unified School District as a part of a broader health curriculum. But as Rob noted, we do really try to be thoughtful about the ways that we engage in the community and really do view ourselves as community partners. So in addition to these community engagement opportunities, we have the Oxy Students Against Gentrification, which is an active club on campus and does a great job promoting resources to help us all learn more about our neighborhood and how we can work in support of our community responsibly. With that, back to you, Robin.
All right, so to wrap up, we know that we're not going to be able to cover everything that is involved in a student's experience outside the classroom here at Oxy, but we hope that through the panel today, through patio chats that you can sign up for throughout the month, and our continuing programming throughout the month of April, that you will continue to explore student life a little bit deeper. Again, we weren't able to kind of dive deeper into maybe Greek life or working on campus, club and intramural sports, varsity athletics, which are pictured here. For those of you that are varsity student athletes, we do have a panel on Tuesday, April 6th, which is just this next Tuesday at 5:30. This is an opportunity for you to get to meet our athletic director and also hear a student panel and ask some questions from our current student athletes. So just a note about that. So as Jordan and I wrap up, once we return, you will be joined by our senior associate deans of admission, Maricela Martinez and Charlie Lazier, and they're going to share a little bit more about living and learning in Los Angeles and what that means. But stay tuned now for another look at campus that will highlight our residence halls, our Weingart Center for the Liberal Arts, the Hamitman Career Center, and our McKinnon Center for Global Affairs.
Well, good morning, afternoon, and good evening. To those of you joining us from around the world, my name is Charlie Lazier, and I'm joined by my colleague Mari. And we're going to be sharing with you a few perspectives of what it's like to live in the city of Los Angeles. I spent the first 30 years of my life living on the East Coast, and my colleague Mari is a native Angelino. So between the two of us, we'll share two perspectives of how we interact with LA and what LA means to us. But I'll let Mari go ahead and introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone, and congratulations again on your acceptance to Oxy.
Right, so we've talked a lot this morning about the benefits of learning in LA. So we wanted to take some time to actually introduce LA to those of you who are unfamiliar and just share a little bit about how we engage with the city. To begin, LA is truly a global city that exposes students to all things from around the world. Angelinos represent 140 different nationalities. We speak 224 languages here in LA. When I first moved to LA was first described to me as a collection of hundreds of distinct neighborhoods, and that has absolutely proven to be true. And Mari's going to share a little bit about our own neighborhoods and what they mean to us. There are about 8,300 different restaurants with cuisines from around the world here in LA. We talk a lot about how much we love food here at Oxy. We have incredible dining here on campus, but also some awesome restaurants in our own neighborhood, and students love to get out and explore the city for additional cuisine. So as an East Coaster, all I knew about LA before I moved here was kind of Hollywood. And while that's certainly true, the entertainment and tourism and fashion are important industries in LA, there's so much more. The city itself is a city of 4 million, and there are 18 million in the metro area. I'm sure many of you have heard that California is the 5th largest economy in the world. If California were its own nation, we'd be the 5th largest economy. If LA were its own nation, we'd be in the top 20 economies in the world. So there is a lot happening here, and it's a really exciting place to live. We're consistently ranked among the top cities in the nation for job growth. For those of you who are interested in politics or diplomacy, downtown LA is the largest government center in the US outside of DC. For those of you interested in economics or finance or maybe even international business, we have offices and operations of countless multinational companies that are here in LA. About 700,000 people work in health services. 190,000 people work in technology. And of course, if you are interested in film, music, or TV, there really is no better place. There is arguably no better city in the US to study the arts. We have 105 museums here in Los Angeles. We have incredible museums like the Broad, LACMA, Getty, the Autry, and all of these museums are hosting student interns. And so if you're interested in studying the arts, it's an incredible opportunity to do so. We have a lot of local artists here in Highland Park, and we even have curators teaching our classes. And as I mentioned a little bit before, we have the largest concentration of artists living here in LA than anywhere else in the US. So you're just constantly surrounded by people who are interested in the performing arts and in the visual arts and dance, so many different things. In the world of entertainment, we are home to the LA Philharmonic, which is argued to be in the top, if not the top, the top 3 orchestras in the United States. And we have the incredible privilege of being able to offer some of our music classes with private lessons with the musicians of the LA Philharmonic. And so that's an incredible thing for our music students. There are over 225 theaters in Los Angeles, and there are more than 1,500 theatrical productions taking place every year. One of my favorite classes at Oxy is a class that actually will go see a production on the weekends, and then the next week we bring in the producers or the actors, the director, to come speak to our students about what they saw. So incredible engagement with the live theater scene. We of course are home to major studios like Warner Brothers, Disney, Universal Studios, Sony, Paramount, plus thousands of small firms and independent enterprises that are related to film. And so if you're interested in studying film, really there's no better place. And we're just about 10 minutes from the Valley in Burbank, where many of these big studios are located. So it's easy for students to access these opportunities. If you're interested in comedy, like I am, there are incredible comedy places to enjoy around the city. There's the Upright Citizens Brigade, the Groundlings, a lot of people that have made it onto SNL kind of got their start at these comedy opportunities here in LA. If you're interested in music, we have pretty limitless venues. We've got incredible venues like the Hollywood Bowl and the Staples Center to see your favorite artists, but also artists perform at smaller venues like the Hi-Hat, which is about 3 blocks from campus. Students who are interested in music are able to take advantage of the internship and recording opportunities with all these major and independent record labels that are based here in LA. We also love to talk about the sunshine and the weather here. I mentioned I grew up on the East Coast, and so it was a huge relief to kind of get away from winter when I moved here to LA. So we are a city with 329 days of sunshine every year. The average high temperature is 74 year round, and the average high in the winters is 67, which is great. The average low is 56. So it's a really nice environment. And this is important, not just because weather is great, but when you're here at Oxy, I always point out that you're not stuck in your dorm rooms during the winter. You're out on the quad year round. And so there's an enormous amount of opportunity to interact with your peers and the faculty and the community here because, you know, the weather is so nice. People are outside, people are engaging. There's very little humidity here in LA compared to most places in the world. I lived my life in Atlanta and DC for most of my life, in Philly. So there's a lot of humidity there. And so it was a really big relief to come to LA where there's, you know, such little humidity. And our proximity to the ocean is really fantastic for students who either want to go on a bike ride like these students in the photo, but particularly for our students studying marine bio, our access to the Pacific Ocean. We do have a boat that's able to go out and our students take classes interacting with marine life and studying samples and doing a variety of things in marine bio. Griffith Park is one of the largest city parks in the US, and that's actually just a few minutes drive from campus. And so students that want to really enjoy a large urban park that's super close to where we are. There are a few cities in the world really where you can access both skiing and surfing as easily as we can here in LA. So we've got the mountains that are super close by that students can go skiing. And then of course the ocean is about 45 minutes away. And so you can actually do those both in the same season. So right now students are able to go skiing and surfing. You could technically do it in the same day. So it's pretty great that we have access to all these different environments. There are about 431 miles of bikeways in LA, and there are countless hiking trails. So if you enjoy being outside, it's a great place for that. And speaking of bikes and transportation, I'll turn it over to Mari now to tell you a little bit about how our students get around the city.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. So hello again. As mentioned earlier, my name is Maricela and I'm a native Angelino. So I was born and raised in the city of Angels. And while I've spent part of my adulthood on the East Coast, the South and abroad, for all the reasons that Charlie just mentioned and those that I'll outline in the next few slides, I've always found myself returning to Los Angeles. So most people think that Angelinos live in their cars, and while there is truth to this, Los Angeles is also home to one of the country's best public transportation networks, including subway, light rail, buses, and shuttles to nearly every corner of the greater Los Angeles area. So there are multiple transportation options available to Oxy students. We have a bike share program that allows students to check out bikes for free with helmets and locks, and a student ride share system called the Bengal Bus. Students can contact the Bengal Bus on an Oxy app and get a ride anywhere within a 7-mile radius on a weekday and 9 miles on weekends. Oxy provides free Metro cards to all students. So students can use their cards to hop on the Red Line to visit Grand Park, the Music Center, or Hollywood. A ride on the Expo line would take students to Exposition Park, home of the Natural History Museum and the Science Center, the Coliseum, and opening in 2022, the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. The last stop on the Expo line is Santa Monica, where students can take advantage of Southern California's coastline. Despite what many may think, exploring the greater city of Los Angeles is a bus, subway, or light rail trip to experiencing the rich array of cultures, film, food, nature, and the urban environment of Los Angeles. So this is a picture of LA Engage, an optional pre-orientation 2-day program where incoming students explore the dynamic arts, culture, history, and communities of Los Angeles. It's an opportunity for students to get to know one another and discover the places that they will repeatedly visit throughout their time at Oxy. So this is a group of LA Engage students that visited the iconic Dodger Stadium, home of the 2020 World Series championships. So go Dodgers. When our students are not participating in a sport on campus or cheering on a classmate, they have over 10 professional baseball teams to choose from. Located just 6 miles from campus, Dodger Stadium isn't just a place to watch baseball. For some of our students, it's a place to gain work experience and explore different career options. The Dodgers organization is one example of the many locations where students have interned during their time at Oxy. Recently, students have interned with NBC Universal, Paramount Pictures, the Los Angeles Zoo, the Autry Museum, Warner Music, WeWork, and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, to name a few. Additionally, our Intern LA program is designed to encourage students to gain real-world work experience over the summer with organizations throughout the Los Angeles area. Students selected for Intern LA internship receive a summer stipend to subsidize some of their transportation and housing expenses. And Intern LA internships are 10 weeks, starting in May and ending in July. So since I started this section talking about sports, I'll conclude by pointing out that Los Angeles hosted the Summer Olympics in 1932 and in 1984, and will do so again in 2028. When Los Angeles was bidding to be the host city, Mayor Eric Garcetti argued that, quote, Los Angeles is boundless. It is a place that is a reflection of what the world looks like today and what America will look like tomorrow. So if you've ever visited Los Angeles, you know that it's not a compact city like San Francisco, but a sprawling area comprised of 472 neighborhoods. Oxy's location in Northeast Los Angeles borders the two great communities of Highland Park and Eagle Rock. Both neighborhoods are best described as a combination of urban and suburban. You will find that many faculty and staff live in the surrounding community. Both Highland Park and Eagle Rock are walkable neighborhoods that make it easy for students to leave campus should they ever feel the need to leave the Oxy bubble. Highland Park, which borders Oxy to the south, is one of Los Angeles's first suburban neighborhoods. From the start, Highland Park was known as an arts enclave. In the early 1900s, it became the epicenter of the arts and crafts movement, something that you still see today with its craftsman homes. In the 70s, it became a center of the Chicano Arts Collective, and in the 1990s, heart of the punk rock revolution. Today, Highland Park is still a vibrant arts community with galleries, live music venues, and most recently, Oxy Arts, a community-based arts hub of Occidental, bringing together the Oxy community and local and regional artists in dialogue and discourse. For our students, Highland Park is not just a place to engage with Los Angeles's art and music scene, it's a place to grab a cup of coffee before class, eat Korean fried chicken on a Wednesday afternoon, or grab a breakfast burrito with friends on a Sunday morning. To the north of campus is Eagle Rock, named after a large rock whose shadow resembles an eagle with its wings outstretched. Like Highland Park, Eagle Rock has an array of eateries and convenient places to grab the bare necessities. There's a Target and a City Target, both within biking distance of campus. Restaurants and businesses in the area welcome Oxy students back at the start of each year with a large banner and offer student discounts throughout the year. For several years now, both of these communities have seen an increase in development and an influx of new residents, resulting in the displacement of long-term residents. Many Oxy students have been vocal in pushing back against gentrification in Northeast Los Angeles. Oxy Students Against Gentrification is one of the most active clubs on campus, and so our students tend to be politically engaged, and we appreciate their work to help Oxy engage positively with the surrounding communities and raise awareness of this critical issue. So to wrap up, Oxy was founded in 1887, before Los Angeles had its first paved street. As the city has changed, Oxy has changed with it. Our location shapes the Oxy experience and is enhanced by the multitude of opportunities and experiences of having Los Angeles in our backyard. So up next, our Assistant Deans of Admission, Kian Tarosa and Michelle Nato-Lowe, will explore how students continue to take their research and coursework outside of Los Angeles through our off-campus study programs. But first, join us for a quick look at our library and academic commons, Norris Hall of Chemistry, Bioscience Building, and the Hemetman Science Center.
All right, welcome everyone. I hope you have been enjoying the slides and presentations so far today. My name is Kian Tarosa and I'm thrilled to be joined by my illustrious colleague, Michelle.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle. I use the SHE series. It's so exciting to see you all. In the participants list, I'm going through and recognizing a bunch of names from my reading process, but yeah, welcome.
And Michelle and I are both Oxy grads and clearly enjoyed our time here well enough to come back and work for the college. We wish we could be celebrating your admission in person on campus today, but we're glad to at least have some time to do so virtually instead. Our short presentation is going to focus in on two things that I think are really fundamental to the academic experience at Oxy, but also the larger Oxy experience, and that study abroad and research. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a student on campus who hasn't engaged with at least one of these, if not both. And so we're going to start off with some information from Michelle on studying abroad.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kian. And so this is the wordiest slide you're going to see today, at least in our presentation. And this is kind of the macro level of what we're going to be covering in the study abroad portion. The majority of our students, 75% of our students do go abroad during their time at Oxy. And the majority of that 75% actually take a traditional semester abroad. There are a few other ways that we go about kind of getting you off campus and seeing, certainly outside of Los Angeles, and that's through classes, global projects, as well as domestic opportunities. Global projects is internships and research abroad. And so we're going to be covering that in the research section of this presentation. So I first wanted to talk a little bit about classes. So imagine that we are kind of at Oxy, everyone's living on campus, you're going to your 4 classes, which kind of makes up a traditional kind of average course load for a student here. But before you can get your final grades, you're actually going to have an opportunity in one of those classes to travel for 2 to 3 weeks abroad with your classmates and your professor. So if you decide to take a class that goes abroad, that's going to be an opportunity that you have access to. It's a wonderful kind of experience to be able to go out into the field with your professor, with your classmates you've spent getting to know the last 3 or 4 months together. And then you go to this kind of country and you're embedded in all the things that you've been learning. So certainly a wonderful opportunity for students. This is actually an example of a class that we're offering next spring when we are all kind of hopefully in a much better place in being able to travel the world. This class is called Paris and Berlin, Capitals and Crossroads of the 20th Century. And this is actually an art history course that will actually allow you to have an understanding of how Paris and Berlin actually became art and culture capitals by kind of studying the history of the 20th century Paris and Berlin. So it's certainly a wonderful experience for students. Your financial aid, if you are receiving financial aid to attend Occidental, does apply to the classes that you could take that go abroad as well.
I think my big Oxy regret was never taking one of those classes that went abroad. Specifically there, I know there's a Michelangelo class where everyone goes to Rome and Italy for a few weeks. And hopefully you all that are listening can learn from my mistakes and take one at Oxy, and I can live vicariously through your experiences. But that said, most of our students that are doing a program through the International Programs Office are doing a more traditional semester abroad. I think that's what a lot of people think of when they think about the idea of study abroad, and that's what it looks like for many of our students who spend 12 weeks in another country, taking courses, obviously outside of Oxy's campus, but really integrating themselves into another community. These students are often living in homestays or in dorms in other universities abroad. And I think our school does a really great job of making sure that we emphasize 2 things with our programs. One is variety and the other is accessibility. That every student has the opportunity to study abroad at Oxy regardless of major. Students that are double majoring can still study abroad without any impact on their ability to graduate within 4 years, and students involved in anything. Whether you're a student athlete or a leader on campus, you're still encouraged to the same degree to spend time in another country participating in a study abroad program. As Michelle mentioned, with the classes that go abroad, with any one of our partnership programs, your financial aid transfers and your credits transfer. So those are really meaningful in allowing all of our students to do so. And typically students are going during their junior year. And so that's how we orient a lot of our programs to encourage those students to spend time in another country. And I think on a less formal note, study abroad just tends to be a really fun and meaningful experience. Part of the idea of going to college is joining a new community and learning from people with backgrounds and experiences very different than your own, and study abroad really leans into that idea. It's not often in your life that you get to drop everything and move to another country for a few months. And so I encourage you to participate in a study abroad program wherever you end up, whether at Oxy or elsewhere, but also I guess hopefully at Oxy. And then we also have domestic programs that Mish can talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to highlight 2 distinct programs at Occidental, which really allows you to kind of focus maybe on opportunities outside of Los Angeles. So maybe already coming to the US is going to be a study abroad experience. Maybe you haven't spent that much time here. And so you want to kind of capitalize on your time in the US. So we have 2 offerings for students who are interested in maybe staying in the United States. The first is the campaign semester. So you volunteer full time for a presidential, Senate, House, or gubernatorial campaign. After election Election Day, students actually will come back to campus and have a 5-week seminar, kind of debriefing and talking about all the different things that they experience while on the road. Your duties during your volunteering will be based on your skill set. So we've had economics majors who have kind of recorded and been responsible for all of the donations that come through their center. One of my former student workers was the translator for her candidate so that he could better speak to his constituents. As with kind of all of our study abroad programs, that campaign semester is distinct in that you'll receive full course credit, which means you'll receive a full semester's worth of credit for volunteering full-time over the semester, and you won't be behind on your graduation requirements at all. The second distinct program that Occidental offers is Oxy at the UN. We select 16 to 18 seniors in their fall semester to go to the United Nations in New York and kind of live and work. You'll be doing a full-time internship at the United Nations. Depending on your own interests, that will really drive the internship kind of pairing that you have access to. So previous places that our students have done internships at include the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UNICEF, Costa Rica Mission to the UN. That's just a really small selection of where our students are interning. During your time at the United Nations, you're also going to be taking 2 courses with professors who are stationed in New York. And this is not restricted, as with our campaign semester, to certain majors. As long as you have a demonstrated interest in international relations, you'll have an opportunity to apply for this program. And certainly we are the only program, or we're the only school in the country that offers a full-time residential program at the United Nations. So certainly something to look forward to should you be interested in that.
Yeah, as we transition into talking about research in college generally, I think I want to take a moment to talk about the importance of research and why it's a valuable thing for our students to pursue. I know when I was going through my college search process, research wasn't even something that was really on my radar. I think I had a misunderstanding that research was, students in lab coats kind of peering into microscopes, and it wasn't necessarily something that I would be pursuing. And I think I was really lucky to go to a place like Oxy, where I learned pretty quickly that research is something that we encourage of all students. That research is a really meaningful part of your undergraduate experience. It's not just for graduate students, especially at a liberal arts college where, at a place like Oxy, we don't have graduate students, meaning there aren't TAs that teach classes, that whether you're doing research or not, you're working directly with faculty members. And those faculty members at Oxy's campus are doing research. As Wendy mentioned earlier, they're scholars in their own right. And the research that they're doing is often with the help of undergraduates. And that leads to really meaningful opportunities for students to work directly with faculty members. If you're interested in graduate school or employment, those more personal letters of rec end up being really helpful down the line. But it's also useful if you're applying to a graduate program, that you've done the kind of work already as an undergrad that they're going to be asking you to do as a graduate student. Many of our students begin doing research during their first year at Oxy. It's really accessible for you to approach a professor, or most students have stories of professors approaching them about research projects, and it's not uncommon for our students to get published before they leave. So we really try and emphasize the accessibility of research across all departments, that it's really for all of our students. And then Michelle will talk a bit about what it actually looks like and what the resources on campus look like as well.
Absolutely. So research at Oxy kind of takes shapes in 3 main areas. So we have research in Los Angeles. And so I'm just going to highlight one of the departments. We have several departments that kind of utilize Los Angeles, but one of our departments that you actually likely heard about when you were applying to Oxy, we asked a question in the short answer section, and you had an option to choose to talk to us about something that's happening in your community, or you could tell us about something that you were interested in researching. So UEPI, Urban and Environmental Policy Institute, is a great kind of department that actually bridges those 2 interests. It's an applied research and advocacy center. If you've heard, for example, of Farm to Table, which aims to partner local farms with school cafeterias, many of you actually wrote about this in your applications to Occidental. That was actually started and incubated at Occidental. This is now a national organization, a national kind of nonprofit. So it's a really cool thing to think about Occidental with this student body of 2,000 students kind of making an impact on so many different schools and so many different students as they're kind of growing up. You could also study affordable housing through UEPI. And it's not just kind of for our students who are interested in kind of studying kind of maybe urban policy and things like that. If you're interested perhaps in geology, we'll send you out to Joshua Tree to do geology research. Perhaps you're interested in art history. Madi mentioned earlier kind of the rich history that exists of mural art in Northeast Los Angeles. You might be studying that. So certainly a lot of different ways that you'll be able to kind of utilize the actual area of Los Angeles for your research. And then there's the research opportunities that exist on campus. There are some that kind of exist maybe wholly on campus, kind of the Genomics Center, the Thinking Lab, the Moore Lab, which is my favorite thing to talk about. About Oxy, we have over 60,000 Mexican birds on campus, which is the largest collection of Mexican birds in the world. So my favorite stat, you hear so many stats about so many different schools. My favorite stat is for every student we have on campus, we have 30 birds on campus, dead birds on campus in kind of shelves. Maybe a little morbid. It is very, very cool for the right students. And certainly you can actually see a small collection of those birds in this picture here. The Vantuna Research Organization, I know someone mentioned a question earlier about their interest in marine science. Occidental runs the Vantuna Research Group, which is kind of the premier marine research organization in LA County. So that's certainly a huge kind of project to be a part of. Professors, like Kian mentioned, are in all of our departments are conducting research. So perhaps you want to work with Professor James Ford in our English department, who's studying arts and the Black American experience, especially how it kind of centers around Afrofuturism. Perhaps you might be interested in studying with Celia Chen, who is one of our computer scientists on our campus, and she's most interested in the intersection of computer science and linguistics, specifically how language we use in coding affects user and software understandability. Oxy research opportunities also exist off campus. So I mentioned earlier, referencing all of these other kind of presentations. In this earlier presentation, we did say that we were going to talk about kind of opportunities to get into the world to conduct research. And Oxy offers a Richter Scholarship, which is an 8 to 10 week fully funded research project in any part of the world. You can do an independent project or you can do a faculty-led project depending on your own interests. So previous students who have done the Richter have studied anti-Blackness in Japan. Students have studied microfinance in Nicaragua. This is really dependent on your own interests and what you want to kind of see in the world.
In addition to the opportunities that Michelle mentioned, one of the hallmarks of Research at Oxy is our summer research program. Every year, Oxy funds around 125 students to pursue a research topic of their choosing in and around Los Angeles. So you receive a stipend to do so when you're living on or near campus. Really kind of diving into a question that you're really interested in over the course of a summer. You're working within a proposed budget with a faculty mentor, and then at the end of summer, you're presenting at our summer research conference. And in many cases, students also present, across California or across the US and other conferences as well. I know going to the summer research conference is always one of the highlights of my summer. And it's fun just to see people scrambling from building to building, trying to find the presentation that they're most interested in next. I'm usually guilty of just picking the ones with the catchiest titles. I know in the past, I've seen presentations on everything from dark matter to venomous snails to public art. I think my favorite presentation from the last couple of years was a student who did research on the effect that gendered robots have on kids. And I had no idea at all what that meant, but it ended up being this really fascinating presentation of a cognitive science student with a gender studies minor. And she was studying the effect that gendered robots like Siri and Alexa have had on 3 to 5 year olds throughout Los Angeles. So working with those students in and around LA for the summer, I'm trying to figure out to what extent, if any, growing up with household appliances that are gendered have had on how they perceive of gender. And so that's not something necessarily that any of our faculty are researching. It's something that we had a student that was really interested in, and we were happy to fund to do so. And so that happens for around 125 students every summer, on top of the research that students are doing during the year with faculty and abroad through Richter. And I think our summer research also segues really well into one of the research experiences that every Oxy student has, which is our senior comps projects. Senior comps are short for our senior comprehensive exams, which are sort of the tail bookend of your Oxy student experience. Senior comps are these research-driven integrative projects that students complete in order to graduate. And they are required of every student and major specific. And we make sure that you dedicate at least a quarter of your schedule per senior comps project, and you have some control over the topic that you choose. So in something like biochemistry, a student might be doing independent research that they have to present and defend in front of faculty. And something like diplomacy and world affairs, your comps project might be a 40 to 50 page research paper that you sort of write and spend a year working on. We also have more project-driven senior comps. We've got media arts and culture students that do a short film that they present at our kind of faux Oscars night. I know there's a student within the computer science department who worked with self-driving technology recently with golf carts on campus. So we can really run the gamut depending on your interests within your specific field. We feel like it's really valuable for our students to have something tangible that they can showcase to a graduate school or to an employer and say, you know, this is the kind of work that I'm capable of. These are the skills that I've developed over the last 4 years. And this is the kind of work that I may be going to do in a graduate program or with an employer. Just because I always love to hear about my colleagues' passions and interests, maybe Michelle, as we wrap things up, would you mind talking about your senior comps project from when you were a student?
Sure, absolutely. I should mention, when I was 17, I am still not great at public speaking, but I could not even give a presentation. So I was a biology major at Oxy. So the thought it was like, I'm fine writing a paper, but the thought of getting in front of my friends and my peers and my professors and giving a 40-minute lecture and then having them ask questions to me afterwards, I was like, there's nothing more in my college experience that I'm probably more scared about. I ended up doing it on colony collapse disorder. If you haven't heard of that, chances are you have. It's basically the honeybees are dying. So I was studying especially how colony collapse disorder was affecting crop production in California. My presentation also covered the ways in which endemic pollinators would also kind of play a role in increasing resilience in these ecosystems and in kind of local economies. It sounds like a mouthful. It's been a while since I graduated from Occidental. Obviously, I'm not working in biology right now, but it's something that I can talk to at length. I can pick up a scientific kind of article on this and kind of be able to read it and be caught up pretty quickly. So it is pretty incredible. I told none of my friends that I was like, if you come to this, I'm going to cut you off. We're never going to be friends again. All of them came, as is very, very typical of all comps presentations. So certainly a wonderful experience. And it's definitely one of the most kind of vibrant memories that I have of Occidental. But with that, I have a very kind of expired version of my experience at Occidental. And so I know that both Kane and I spoke really fast because there's so much information to cover. There is going to be a recording available to you and kind of mailed to you very, very soon. But because you've sat through this entire program, you're likely here for kind of the pinnacle of why you're here, is to hear from current Oxy students. They're coming up next to share about their experiences both on and off campus. But before that, we're going to turn it over to a virtual performance from Oxy's very own Glee Club. Thank you all.
Don't you know I'm no good for you? I've learned to lose, you can't afford to. Torn my shirt to stop you bleeding, but nothing ever stops you leaving. Quiet when I'm coming home and I'm on my own. I can lie, say I like it like that, like it like that. I can lie, say I like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for waiting with us throughout this presentation. I know that these days can be a bit longer virtually, but we really have enjoyed this opportunity to connect with you. And as Michelle said, to really celebrate in your accomplishments with some of our current students. So I would love to invite our current student panelists to turn their webcams on and join me for this last session of the day. And I wish we could, spend this time introducing you to all 2,000 members of the Oxy community. We have pared it down to 3 who we think are just really exceptional students and in so many ways lift up everything that makes Oxy special. What a morning. Well, I will certainly let our students introduce themselves to get us started. And then we are going to really kind of unpack so much about the Oxy experience through the lens of current students. But would you all mind going around and saying your names, your majors, your class year, and where home is for you? Nora, why don't we start with you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nora. I'm a senior politics major, originally from Seattle, Washington, but right now living in Los Angeles. I just forgot what I was supposed to say other than that.
I think that's all of it.
Awesome.
JP, would you mind? Yeah.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? My name is JP Flores. I prefer he, him pronouns. I am a senior cellular and molecular biology major, and I'm tuning in from Los Angeles, California, but I'm from Santa Clarita, California.
Absolutely. And Bergen.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Bergen. I'm a junior at Oxy, originally from Wisconsin, and I'm a critical theory social justice major and an urban environmental policy minor.
Great. Lots to unpack within that, all 3 of you. But let's take it back, if you don't mind, to 3-4 years ago when you were seniors in high school, making a very similar decision to the members of our audience. What led you to Oxy? What made you feel compelled to kind of ultimately pick Oxy? How was that kind of college search process and really decision-making process for you? And Bergen, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I pretty much knew that I was going to want a small liberal arts school right away. I wasn't like deciding between big schools and small schools. I was pretty much exclusively looking at small schools. So that was an easy decision for me, but it also made it difficult because they all kind of start to blend together when you're only looking at small liberal arts schools. They have very many similarities and they advertise similar things. So what stood out to me about Oxy was clearly, obviously, the location is big, not just like the fact that it's Los Angeles, which is so cool for someone from Wisconsin. You're like, that's a different world. But just the fact that I knew, even though I liked a small school, I didn't want like a too small of an environment. So many small schools are in like small towns, and like the whole thing about them is that they're in a college town, which is really cute. But for me, I was like, what if that's 4 years and I'm bored by the end? So I liked that I could tell that I could get like the small school experience and the big city experience like all at once. That was definitely a big thing for me. I also, once I visited, I could just tell, like, which is a hard thing to explain when you can't go, but you can tell that the students are really passionate about the things that they do there. There's like all these flyers everywhere for like random concerts, like the Glee thing we just saw, and like presentations and the Green Bean and all kinds of student-led things that I could just tell like students were really taking initiative. And so those were kind of the 2 things for me that solidified Oxy.
Awesome. JP, how about you?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Bergen kind of hit the nail on the head, but what led me to Occidental really is the baseball, right? So I went to a big public high school where growing up, my goal was to play college baseball, right? But what happened is when I got to Occidental, something kind of shifted, right? Like it was a place where I stepped on campus, and one, the campus is beautiful, but also it felt like a place that was just home to me. Right. So that came in a variety of different forms. Not only was it a small school where, I got to visit a class and it was just like 6-7 people and the professors knew everyone by name. But also everyone just seems like they want to contribute to the community, right? I think that's something that will be touched on a lot during this is the community. You know, people were holding doors open for me and they didn't even know me, right? Like I was a prospective student. I sat down with the baseball team and they introduced me to friends that weren't even athletes, and they were genuinely interested in who I was as a person. So that's kind of like what led me to Occidental. But I ultimately ended up, choosing Occidental because it's just a place where I felt heard, and at a lot of other places, not to bash on them, but I just felt like I was there. At Occidental, I felt like I had a presence. I felt like everything I said was really, really listened to, and not just from students or peers, but professors I was talking to, admissions officers I was talking to. I just felt seen, felt heard, and I knew it was a place that I was going to be really happy at.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. It really, I always get so moved during these kind of testimonials, if you will. Nora, how about you? Senior year of high school, you're in the same seat as many of our prospective students. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, so I think Bergen and JP really hit it on the head, but my senior year of high school, I had like no idea what I want to major in. I felt very lost. So anyone in the audience who is like excited by the idea of college, but like has no idea what they want to study, I see you, and it's going to be okay. And I think that's what was really appealing to me about Oxy, is that they had this amazing curriculum, but it was also really flexible. Everyone came in undeclared. You could change your major, you could have a major, minor, double major. And that was really appealing to me because I had a broad sense of maybe what I wanted to do, but I was also open to the idea that I would go to college, take a bunch of different classes and change my mind. And that's kind of exactly what happened. And so I knew I wanted to be in a place where I had that kind of academic flexibility. And the other thing I'll add is that I think the learning environment of Oxy is really special. It is incredibly collaborative. It's not kind of that like pressure cooker, really competitive environment. And I think that has just definitely enriched my academic experience so much more. It means that I have like really amazing, super interesting conversations with my classmates and my friends about what they're learning, how they're approaching things. And it's really kind of drawing together a bunch of people who are really interested in learning about a bunch of different things and don't see that as like trying to one up each other or anything like that.
Totally. And Nora, I'll just keep you on if you don't mind. Because you came to Oxy from Washington, from Seattle, and many prospective students, from Seattle and the Pacific Northwest, just culturally, and certainly logistically. But what was that transition like coming, from there to here?
Yeah, I mean, the weather change cannot be stated enough. That's like a classic thing everyone talks about, but like it really made me be like, can I go back to living in the rain and the darkness so much? But the weather is a huge part, but also I think what's really great is that coming to college, I met so many new people from different states, different cities, but I also felt like I had a home base. I met people from Seattle that I had never met before. I felt very at home in Los Angeles coming from another urban environment, but also really excited because LA is a completely different city than Seattle. So I felt like all the things I loved about Seattle in terms of the people, the city structure and things like that were things I could relate to in LA, but also expand upon and find kind of new opportunities within that. So I definitely love the transition. It's hard to like go back to Seattle during winter breaks and everything like that because it's just a very different environment, but love both places.
Totally, totally. Bergen, similar question, but coming from the Midwest. I know that I came from Chicago to Oxy, and in my mind, Chicago, LA, big cities. And I was really shocked at just how different they were, not just in terms of how they're designed as cities, but really culturally, how different it can feel to be, on the West Coast as opposed to kind of in the Midwest. What did that look like for you? And how have you kind of adjusted, or when you go back to Wisconsin, what are things you notice that are now like kind of distinctly LA?
Yeah, it is always so funny coming back here because I'm like, oh, this feels like a different country almost. Like it is so different. I was a little like apprehensive about that at first, just because I'm like, small town Wisconsin, one of the biggest cities in the country, California, like they could not be more different in my mind. I was actually amazed at how like easy the transition was. One, because there's other Midwestern people at Oxy, and that bond is like when I see other Midwestern people, like when you just said that, I was like, yes, Chicago. I'm not from Chicago, like I'm not from Illinois, but all of a sudden it's like all the Midwestern people are like, yes, we are together. We're in this together. Like we can do it. So that's really fun. But yeah, I mean, I know Nora already said like the weather difference is huge, but it is huge, especially when like the polar vortex was happening in Wisconsin while it was like 80 degrees in LA, I think 2 years ago. And I was like, sorry, it is literally 100 degrees warmer where I'm at, but sorry about that. Culturally, yeah, there are some significant differences. One though that I was kind of worried about that like I haven't encountered is like the whole Midwestern niceness thing. Like I was kind of worried, like, are people in LA like mean? Like, do they not talk to each other on the street? I don't understand this. But in my experience, like it's been my accent people make fun of, but like in general, people always are like nice. People still say hi. Sometimes people are weirded out when I like say hi to strangers on the street. I guess that is kind of a Midwestern thing, but in general, everyone is super sweet that I've met in LA. And like, yeah, it's great. But it is a big difference from small town to big city and like how many different cultures there are versus like Wisconsin. It's like many people are the same that you meet. So yeah.
Totally. No, I would love to just lead an hour-long presentation on transitioning from the Midwest to California, but perhaps we'll save that for another day. I think there's certainly plenty to say about it. JP, you came from the greater LA area, Santa Clarita, and for those of you watching from home, only about 1/3 of our students come from California, and California is a very big state, so an even smaller percentage actually come from Los Angeles in Southern California. And I think that can be for a lot of reasons, but there's always that trepidation of, well, I'm from here, I know the area, maybe I want to explore something new in college. And so how has kind of being a, couple hours car ride from home, do you feel like you've kind of seen it all before? Has Oxy been new in some ways? What was that sort of adjustment like?
Yeah, before I answer your question, Bergen, what accent? And also Bergen, I scream across the quad to say hi to you, so you should not be weirded out when people say hi on the street. But I just wanted to throw that out there. But to answer your question, Julius, yeah, I mean, in my college process, my thought was I'm going out of state, right? Like I have lived here all my life. I want to experience something new. College is supposed to make you feel challenged, right? You're trying to find yourself. But it's wild because Occidental is 30 minutes away from Santa Clarita. And when I got here, Nora touched on it a little bit, but the plethora of just diverse perspectives, all the different experiences that you're hearing, I think that really just changes the way you think and really changes the way you see the world, right? So I don't necessarily think it's location, it's just the people, right? And when you have this kind of melting pot of people from all over the world with different perspectives, different experiences, it just, I don't know, it's transformative, So for me, that transition, despite being 30 minutes away, I don't know, it's a lot to think about. I reflect back and it's like, my house is 30 minutes from here, but I'm a completely different person. Whether that be because of college and my classes, I don't know. I like to credit it to all the people I've met, all the staff I've met, the faculty that have really guided me. So I guess that's my experience, just being a local kid.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. I mean, I love hearing students say, that they grew up in LA and through Oxy feel like they're meeting a whole new city. Even not to make this about me, but I feel like I spent 4 years at Oxy, learning about Los Angeles. And then after I graduated, you're set up to continue to learning about Los Angeles, but it's not something that can be exclusively or exhaustively done in 4 years. It's such an adventure to embark on, regardless of where you're coming from. Well, JP, you are a bio major. You've done great work in the department. Was that always the plan to come into Oxy and be a science major? Were you concerned about what the sciences might look like in a liberal arts college? I know that can also be a source of trepidation for many students that, I know I want to go on to medical school or do a PhD or do research in a lab. What does that look like at a liberal arts college? So if you wouldn't mind walking us through kind of your thought process on that.
Yeah. I mean, to be completely transparent, I came into Occidental thinking I was going to be a kinesiology major because I wanted to be a physical therapist. And quite frankly, because I didn't think I was quote unquote smart enough to pursue the hard sciences, right? So, um, the thing with Occidental's professors, and particularly the bio department, is they're incredibly supportive, right? In my opinion, I think that they take some of the things that society views as super hard, like this is for people that are super smart, they turn that into something really accessible. And they do that with just, small class sizes, but also really encouraging office hours, really telling you that no, like science is for everyone, science is for the community. We don't want to make it hard. We want to give you these skills so you can go out, be a scientist, and contribute, right? So being a science researcher at a liberal arts college, I think it's the ideal way to go. I know that's a little biased, right? But in my opinion, it's very true, right? I'm headed to UNC Chapel Hill in the fall to pursue my PhD in biomedical sciences, and to be quite frank, I think that is because of my passion for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM, right? Because you can throw someone in a lab and yeah, if you give them a protocol, they can follow it and they're doing good science. But it's also, who are you doing the science for, right? I feel like Oxy does a great job of really just telling you, you need to inspire the next generation of scientists, right? So I think science at a liberal arts college, it's where can you go wrong? Not only are you getting the hard science skills, but you're getting a sprinkle of the economics, a sprinkle of the politics, a sprinkle of the critical theory, social justice, which is important when it comes to, um, building a well-rounded, compassionate, empathetic scientist. So.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's so right in so many ways. And if you actually, I mean, to kind of expand that conversation to medical school, if you do look at sort of the core competencies that medical schools look at, um, certainly lab work is a part of it, but it's also a commitment to service. It's a cultural awareness and understanding. It's global perspective. And I think, like you said, the liberal arts really are able to situate science in such a compelling way. I was not a scientist at Oxy. I was a politics major, which I loved through and through. Nora, you have the privilege of joining me on the politics lectern. How was your journey through the politics department? Was that what you expected? Any curves along the way? Tell us, please.
Yeah, I mean, I came in interested in politics, but I was initially assigned to like an art history professor to be my advisor because I think I hit maybe like every box you could hit for what you're interested in. So I was really open. I was taking a lot of 101s my first year, but my politics 101 course was really amazing. It was taught by an adjunct professor, and he really grounded our experiences in kind of like current events and what was happening around us, really encouraging us to think about politics as this process that's happening every day in our lives of like power, rather than just like these are the three branches of government, these are all these like structures and things. And that really, his framing of that was really important to me. And I just remember looking on course counts, which is where we house all of our like course registration things, and reading the descriptions and the titles for the politics classes that were all like higher level and other things. I was like, I want to take every single one of these classes. These seem like so interesting to me. And that just felt like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so my sophomore year, I declared and got a politics advisor. And yeah, just been weaving my way through the department ever since. But I've really felt really lucky to have so many great kind of mentors in the politics department, particularly I think like women of color who have really focused their lives on teaching courses that are aimed at thinking about the intersections of politics and power with really important issue areas. So that's been huge for me. I'm going to turn in my comps on Monday, so I'll be done with my senior comprehensive for politics soon. So looking back on it, it really has been such an amazing journey, and it really started in just taking that 101 and being like, oh, this is really interesting. I just want to see what else is out there.
Yeah, and I would even I try not to take up too much space in this panel, but I do think the politics program is so unique in that it's not your traditional political science. When we talk about political science, that it treats politics as a social science where you're doing a lot of numbers and regressions and statistics work, really trying to predict human behavior. And I feel like politics at Oxy is really more centered on axes of power, right? Who has power, who has control? How do we navigate that? How do we build a world or a city around that? Which makes it, in my experience, so much more engaging, and very much interdisciplinary by design, as Dean Sternberg said earlier. That really is kind of the ethos of our curriculum. Now, Bergen, politics and bio are certainly common household names, if you will. You have really kind of run the gamut of Oxy-specific programs and departments with urban and environmental policy and critical theory and social justice. So I would love it for you to just, first of all, explain what those programs really are in your own words and kind of how you went about deciding that they were right for you.
Yeah, explaining my major and minor to boomers is the funniest thing. Like, I'm always like, I have to preface it with, I know it sounds really liberal artsy, but it's really cool. So yeah, I am a critical theory social justice major. I'll probably just say CTSJ from now on, just to be clear, because it's a mouthful. Which basically means, I mean, in my mind, so we study theory, obviously, like the history of different critical theory and critical theorists, like critical race theory and gender theories and things like that. Basically, the way I explain it, though, is it's just like you learn different lenses through which to look at the world around you, and then you learn how to apply them to solve the problems that you see. So that's still pretty vague, but you can kind of, the best thing about it is you can kind of take it in whatever direction you want, depending on like what lenses make sense for you and what problems you care the most about. And that's why like CTSJ is such an interesting field to me. Like I just attended the CTSJ comps yesterday of the seniors from this year, and they were all so different because everybody gets to kind of pick their passion and like pick the issue that matters to them, and then they apply different lenses to it and apply different theories to it, and they say like, this is how to approach this problem, this is why I care about it, this is why you should care about it. So it's just so cool, and you can really see like Oxy students like passions come out in those classes, I feel like, which I love. And then UEP, Urban Environmental Policy, is different but similar. I mean, it's more focused on, like it sounds like, policy. So you learn more politics. Like I had to take politics classes for that minor. And then you also do like econ, and you kind of learn about like how to look at cities, like particularly like city structures and the way that cities are laid out and how they function in like an environmental justice framework kind of. So you learn about like that the environment isn't just nature, and it's not just like national parks, I can think of that word, national parks, like nature and the environment is everything around you. And so it's like learning about like disproportionate effects of climate change on inner city communities and low income communities of color. And so you kind of learn about how to approach that, but with a more like policy perspective rather than like a theoretical perspective. I know it all sounds super vague and it still sounds really liberal artsy, but it is so fun. And like most people at Oxy will tell you, even like if you're not a liberal artsy person, like if you're like a bio major, most people will take a CTSJ or a UEP class and love it. So I'm a huge proponent.
Totally. And would you mind, I'm just curious kind of, or sorry, JP, did you want to?
I was gonna say, I wish I double majored. Go ahead.
I guess it's a little late into the bucket of things we would do over. I feel like that's all we do in the admissions office is talk about things we would do again if we could go back and be students. But Bergen, I'm curious kind of what advising looked like for you as you were kind of deciding whether you wanted to pursue UEP, whether you wanted to pursue CTSJ. Was there a professor that kind of helped that, or was it conversations with multiple professors, or even now, how do you kind of get feedback, and kind of support in navigating those decisions?
Yeah. So the professors in the CTSJ department are phenomenal. Like I cannot, and the UEP department, honestly, I've had great experiences in both. I actually originally declared UEP as my major. I took one CTSJ class with the person that is now my advisor, and she was phenomenal, but I was like, that all went way over my head. I can't keep up because CTSJ 101 is like, you learn like 100 theorists in one semester. Like it is so overwhelming. So I was like, that's not for me. So I declared UEP. It seemed more grounded to me because I took like 101 for everything that semester. I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was doing. But through talking with my now like current advisor, I was like, honestly, like I'm just loving all the CTSJ classes I'm taking, but I feel like it's too late because now like it's the end of my sophomore year and I'm like already kind of pursuing UEP and I don't know what to do about it. And she was like, you're going to be fine. If you want to change your major, you have plenty of time to do so. We'll make sure you graduate on time. Like these are the classes you'll take. These are the internships I'll get you. Like if you ever meet with a CTSJ professor, they will be like, I know this person in this area and this person over here and this person here, and I'll get you connected to all of them. You'll get internships, you'll get jobs, like you'll save the world. Like they are just so passionate about their students. And so that was definitely like so helpful for me when I was really overwhelmed because I was like, I think I love CTSJ, but I don't know what to do about it. And so they were like, look, we can make it practical. Like you can get jobs from this. You can take the right classes. Like you can pursue your passions and you will have time. And like, I meet with my advisor all the time just because I'm like, I need to talk about life. So they're so, so helpful. I can't emphasize that enough. And that is usually the experience of most professors I've had at Oxy. I think the professors are amazing and they care so much about their students. So
Yeah.
it's fun of them too.
No, I think I mean that harkens back to something I'm often fond of saying about Oxy, which is really that it's not intended to be kind of this linear 4-year experience. We expect students to come in and really change direction to the extent that's right for them. Some students might stay on the same path, but pull in new interests or areas of observation, and they expect it. Other students might have a moment where they take that philosophy course that totally blows their mind, and they make a full 180. All of that is really the expectation more than the exception, I think. And I think that is very much what is so transformative and powerful about being at Oxy. But in the vein of kind of working with faculty to develop those interests, to fine tune, where exactly the intersection of your interests lie. Nora, I'd be curious to hear a little bit about your research experience at Oxy, really kind of what that looked like, and we can use your senior comps kind of as a jumping off point, but how you developed it, how you came to be interested in what you are interested in.
Yeah. So my research experience at Oxy actually started, I guess, like a year ago when I was taking a class in the Media Arts and Culture department. And it was incredible. It was just like me and the professor, I feel like immediately connected. And I knew I wanted to do some kind of research around the idea of solidarity in communities in Los Angeles and looking at art specifically as a voice for or a method for building community power. And the course was focused on kind of documentaries, activism, kind of thinking critically about media and how it is used to frame different issues. And we just kind of immediately connected, and I told her like my idea for this project, and she was like, I can be your faculty advisor. And I was like, okay, great, I guess we'll do this. And she had maybe known me for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks at that point. But I feel like it's a very common Oxy experience where professors are just willing to jump onto projects or come to you with projects if they know that you're passionate, they know you have an interest in this. And so I was approved for summer research that I did virtually over the summer, focused on the idea of solidarity as built through art and political means in Los Angeles. So that took a bunch of different forms through like kind of reading transnational feminist texts, looking at virtual archives, interviewing folks who are engaged in solidarity work. And then that kind of pushed me into my current senior comps research, which is more politics grounded, but is also looking at specifically like political and racial solidarity. And so for my comps, I'm researching dimensions of solidarity for Asian Americans and thinking about being in solidarity with Black liberation and Black social movements. And so that means for like the past couple months, I've been interviewing activists and organizers, putting their interviews in conversation with each other, researching kind of historical frames for solidarity, different political theorists and things like that, and kind of seeing how things connect or disconnect, where maybe we might be headed in terms of thinking about solidarity for future social movements and things like that. So it's really been a really amazing process that's just kind of built off of each other and is overwhelmingly been guided by a lot of really amazing faculty members.
And remind me, did your research take you abroad, or did you end up going abroad separately from your research, or how did you kind of balance navigating those two spheres?
I went abroad the fall of my junior year. I was really lucky to go then. And it was not connected to my research. I went to Tokyo, Japan, and I was just like, I want to experience school in a different place. And I took a bunch of really amazing classes and everything like that. And I kind of came back ready to re-engage with everything Oxy, and probably with, if we're real, I guess it all ties together because I gained more conception of myself and how I see my identity and how that relates to other people and solidarity positioning and everything like that.
Great, great, great. JP, you also finished your senior comps in the fall. Now your research, I happen to know for a fact, did involve a bit of international travel, correct? And unless you've done so much, maybe I'm merging storylines here. But if you wouldn't mind sharing similarly kind of faculty mentorship you've gotten in your research, what that's looked like over the summer and throughout the school year in your senior comprehensives.
Yeah. So I've been working with Dr. Schultz in the biology department since my first year. He does research on the venom of fish hunting cone snails. So a lot of what I did over the last 4 years is do bioinformatics, molecular biology, biochemistry research. And I just met with him before this, and we're currently writing a publication or a paper for yeah, so that's going to be great. But one of the things that I love talking about is the fieldwork component of all of this, right? So 2 summers ago, we were able to go to Kauai, Hawaii, and we were basically looking for these venomous snails. So we were there for a week, got to stay on a resort, and everything was fully funded, right? But not only did we, get to hang out in Hawaii, but I got to do stuff that isn't really done by a lot of undergraduates at other institutions, right? Going to other places and doing field work. Another thing I've been able to do through research is attend conferences, right? So I've been able to go to the neuroscience conference in San Diego. I've been to Austin, Texas for another biology conference to present our work. And that was all fully funded too, which is great. So research at Oxy is amazing. And just that, like, relationship you build with different professors, not just your research mentor, but other professors as well, is just amazing. I'm a big climber, rock climber, and my mentor is too. So he's actually like given me really old equipment, yes, but it's still equipment. So we have that kind of bond, right? I coach some of my other bio professors' kids in baseball. I'm on the baseball team here as well. So when it comes to just mentorship and getting into research and getting involved in your department, there's just a lot that Oxy has to offer. But for my senior comps, I did something a lot different. I decided to study the gut microbiota and how the gut microbiota can actually cause neurodegenerative diseases, so Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Completely separate from my snail research, but the fact that I actually got to delve into that is just amazing, with a lot of support as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I saw it. I don't know if I could repeat it back to you, but I definitely bore witness to the presentation, and it was very compelling. It's certainly my favorite part of being back at Oxy is getting to go watch our student workers present their senior comps. Just to really quickly lift up kind of the broad range of what senior comprehensives can look like, though. I know we heard about Nora's in the politics department and JP in bio. Bergen, are there any from the CTSJ comps presentations yesterday you heard that you thought like really resonated with you? That you want to give a shout out to? You don't have to have the titles memorized.
I would love to. I'm actually starting now to work on my senior comps, which I don't want to talk about. Because I'm like I'm so jealous that Nora and JP are done because like, wow, I'm overwhelmed. But some of the ones that were really cool yesterday. So there was one that talked about access. I was trying to think of what it was called, but I can't remember. It was about equitable access to the online curriculum during the COVID-19 shutdown. And she did it like last semester when everything, like no schools were open basically. And that was really interesting because she talked about like how gender roles kind of like became like more further reinforced during the pandemic, how like many women had to take off from their jobs to start like doing childcare again that were previously like in the workforce, and how like a lot of like at-home teaching kind of fell on the women in the households. And so that was really interesting. There was one that talked about the Armenian genocide and how like intergenerational trauma has like influenced the way that Armenian people like understand themselves today and like live in the like diaspora in LA. One of my favorites talked about like the dialectics of the nail shop, I think it was called, and it was about like how many nail shops are owned by Vietnamese Americans, but the people that frequent them are often Black women. And so it talked about like forming solidarity among those groups and like how those people are often pit against each other, but there's like a long history of like, I'm not doing these justice because they're not my projects.
No, it's so fascinating.
By all three of those. I mean, all of them, but those three are my favorites.
I appreciate you you sharing that. Well, I'm always afraid that we spend so much time talking about the academic experience that people are going to think that like no one at Oxy has any fun, that all we do is lock you in a classroom to do research and think deeply about the ways of the world. So we've got about 5 minutes left for the panel. Could we go around and say like things that you do that bring you joy on campus, right? Where does joy to you come from? It might be one thing, it might be many things. But you know, at the end of the day, Oxy students are only in the classroom for about 12 to 15 hours a week. So we're spending the majority of the time not actually in class. Where do you kind of get to exercise your passions, you know, outside of the classroom? The heavy hitter, is anyone eager to take it first?
I
I
guess
can go. Oh no, you go.
I am not sure. You said the passions thing, and I'm like, well, I was going to talk about food.
Food is a passion.
Food is my passion.
In LA, food is a passion.
It really is though, because when I was like back living on campus, I tried to make sure I was like getting off campus at least once a week. Just to kind of like make sure I'm one of those people that like I will just sit down and like do homework all day if I don't like force myself to not do homework. So I will try to go off campus once a week. And there are so many places to go get food that are like a whole experience in itself in LA. Like going to get food is the event. It's not like what you do before or after. There are places like on York. I have tried to make that stupid vegan mac and cheese so many times at home and it will never work. But there's a food truck with vegan mac and cheese that is actually good and I will never understand it. It's like mind boggling to me. So that's fun. There's like so many fun food trucks on York. I also love to go like downtown and just like find a restaurant that I've never heard of and like go in there. Or there's like also little places like there's like Little Tokyo or Chinatown or Little Armenia. So you can like seek out specific cultural foods in that way too. So that's like my favorite thing to do. I guess food is just my passion. So
Nora?
I was totally gonna talk about food, but I will switch my thing so we don't go too hard on food. But I feel like one of my favorite things to do off campus is just get out into different like green spaces and parks in Los Angeles. So sometimes like the residential area right by Oxy is like beautiful to walk in, and there's so many great areas around that. But beyond that, like I love like walking around the Silver Lake Reservoir. You see like often a lot of celebrities around there. The Hollywood Reservoir is also beautiful and I feel like underrated. I feel like also living here during COVID, it means like I now know so many more parks in Los Angeles and places like that. But also the beach has been huge for me here. I did one semester, the fall of my sophomore year, I did beach frisbee every weekend and would drive to Santa Monica and just play for a couple hours. But people also commonly go on the weekends and things like that. And so those like spaces are places that bring me joy in Los Angeles.
And Nora is also a star ultimate frisbee player, so I won't force you to talk about it. But of the many things Nora spends her time doing, ultimate frisbee is up there as well. Perhaps another panel for that one. JP, how about you?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about food too, but now I really gotta switch. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the community at Oxy is just so special and so near and dear to my heart that I think one of my favorite things is really getting to know someone, but also like really getting to know someone, you know. So one of my best friends is Indian, and because Los Angeles is such a huge hotspot for diversity and culture, he's able to take me to different places that he really enjoys, and he's always like, "Oh, this place is good. Don't go to that place for curry. Definitely go to this place." You know, so it's just like the different options, whether it be, you know, the green spaces that Nora was talking about, the food, it's just a great spot to learn, you know. And I know this is supposed to be like a not learning kind of question, but like, but you learn so much about just so many different people, and you learn a lot about the world. And that's why I love doing these panels. I love participating in admissions events because I think Oxy truly is a special place, because of the people, because we are in LA, like, let's take advantage of it. So I just want to share those little like tips and tricks out there that just ask questions and get to know people, and you'll have a great time at Oxy. So.
Well, I think that's a great final note to end on. Let's give a bit of advice and reassurance to our admitted students in the room. JP, you're welcome to keep that, or if you have anything else to add on. Final advice for second semester seniors, not unlike yourself, right? Trying to decide what comes next. Any advice to share?
Yeah, I think my piece of advice is don't forget that people are also human, right? So professors, like, you can approach them and ask them a live question. They're more than happy to. And just don't be afraid to try new things, whether it be food, joining a club that you're interested in, but you don't know anyone, so you're not going to go over there, right? Like I said earlier, college is a time to explore and get to know yourself. And I feel like my college experience has been so transformative that, like, people at home and my parents are like, you are a completely changed person, for the better, obviously. But that's kind of what Oxy has given me. Oxy's just given me a chance to be a better, if not the best version of myself. And I'm trying to continue that going into graduate school. So that's my advice.
Awesome. Nora, any final advice for seniors in high school?
Yeah, I would say just generally be kind to yourself. When I was a senior in high school, I was very lost. I was putting so much pressure on myself to be like, you need to know what the next 4 years of your life are going to look like. And I feel like the reality is just like, you don't know, you cannot know. And I think you just do the best with what you have, and that's always going to be enough. And so I think coming to these events, reaching out to current students to kind of make an informed decision about where you want to go to school, those are all great options. But at the end of the day, I think you really have to come back and be like, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I wish someone had told me that when I was a senior in high school, and that, it's probably all going to work out.
Bergen?
Yeah, you absolutely cannot know what the 4 years will look like. I did not think when I finally took the leap and moved to LA, and now I've been living at home for a year. So like, you just can't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I guess my advice would be somewhat similar. I think the best advice I got, since I'm horrible at making decisions and I get really stressed about it. And I think I even made my decision based on like a number, like I made a chart and then I ranked different things by different numbers. And then I like multiplied it all and added it up, and whatever one had the highest number, like that's what I did. So that, I don't know if I would recommend or not. I guess the best advice I probably got and like to give to high school seniors is that like, you will be fine probably at whatever college you choose. Like, you probably got into good schools, and whatever one you go to, you're going to have a good experience. And if you don't, then you transfer. Like, the worst case scenario is that you transfer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I always like to remind myself, like, the worst case scenario is just that I go to a different school. Like, that's not a horrible thing. So I know that's not like an Oxy specific thing. I just think it was like really helpful for me to be like, this doesn't have to be like a life or death decision. Like, if you think Oxy sounds fun or cool, then like come to Oxy. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I have to do these numbers and it has to get the highest number, like multiplied by 3 or whatever, hopefully that made sense, but yeah.
That was code for transfer to Oxy, basically, if you end up somewhere.
I think that's all helpful advice to hear. I mean, I think it's important to keep this all in perspective. And like you said, Nora, really be kind to yourself, not just with finals and AP exams and the college selection process, but in celebrating all you have accomplished throughout high school. I don't think we want to lose sight of that either. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you to our student panelists. Thank you to our audience in the room. Don't leave yet. We have one final segment of our campus tour to share with you. So stay tuned to see our athletic facilities, as well as our marketplace dining hall and our main auditorium, Thorn Hall. But before we turn to that and wrap up, I just want to congratulate you one last time on your admission to Oxy. And we really are just so glad we got to spend the morning celebrating in your accomplishments, introducing you to members of the community, and telling you a little bit about what we find so special about the Oxy experience. I also wanted to remind you that there are many other ways to continue to learn more about Oxy throughout the month of April. The fun does not have to end today. Every day we will be offering virtual patio chats, which are informal Zoom meetings led by an admission officer and current students where you can come and ask questions you have, or just learn a little bit more about Oxy and hear some new perspectives. You might be joined with folks like JP or Nora or Bergen and myself to just kind of welcome you with open arms and chat informally. In addition, we will also be having a range of faculty academic programs where professors will lead informational webinars throughout the month. So if you want to hear professors from the CTSJ department or bio speak about the program, you can certainly join us for those. And they are all available on our admitted student website under our virtual experiences at Oxy. And I believe one of my colleagues shared the link in the chat box. We'll also be having student life panels to bring and lift up certain student experiences ranging from athletics to mental health and self-care to living in Los Angeles. And finally, our office will be hosting a series of student-only identity conversations led by current Oxy students to share their experiences navigating Oxy while belonging to distinct identity-based communities. So again, these are all available. You can peruse them on our virtually experience Occidental tab on our new students webpage at oxy.edu/new students. Otherwise, thank you all again for a lovely Friday morning and afternoon or evening if you're watching us outside of the US. You've been a wonderful audience. Congratulations one last time. We hope to see you on campus this fall. With that, enjoy the final segment of our on-campus tour.